The left will never stop their agenda to take over America. You are their enemy, and they will not negotiate. Prepare yourselves. Welcome to the Blue Shark Show with your host, Mike Lang.
Good old FBI Director Ray was questioned on C-SPAN, and Senator Ted Cruz from Texas did an awesome job. And there was a memo that was found by Project Veritas, and it talked about the FBI material and being militia, violent extremist, and having, violent extremism. Let's listen to Ted Cruz.
It was reported that Project Veritas had obtained a copy of an FBI training material.
Fake news, right?
Which listed various symbols
Veritas,
and themes which, in the FBI's estimation, were indicative of, quote, militia violent extremism. Now, these symbols weren't things like the Ku Klux Klan or the Nazi Party, which naturally would be symbols of that. But instead, they included, rather astonishingly, patriotic symbols of our nation and our history. Included on this list is the Betsy Ross flag. Now, that's fairly remarkable that the Betsy Ross flag in the FBI's indication is indicative of militia violent extremism, because among other people who have been publicly alongside the Betsy Ross
it's
flag,
funny, the Betsy Ross flag wasn't a big deal
President
until
Barack Obama,
Nike and Colin Kaepernick made a big deal about it.
Directly underneath two Betsy Ross flags. But it's not just President Obama.
Uh-oh.
We also have President Biden, who was sworn in under Betsy Ross
racism
flags.
By the FBI.
Since that picture exists,
not just
can
the Betsy
FBI
Ross flag
start investigating
also on this
Joe
list,
Biden and his son?
No, they won't him.
Is the Gadsden flag.
Hands off. He's not.
As a symbol of violent extremism. Now, the state of Virginia has a license plate for the Gadsden flag, as do many other states.
The Gadsden flag.
I think people would be astonished to find that having that license plate,
they just
the
can't
FBI
help but trip over their
indicates
feet.
Yeah. And look at Ray squirm.
That you're a violent extremist. Also included on this is a text that I was particularly struck, is the Gonzales battle flag. Come and take it. As indicative of being a violent extremist militia. Well, I will self-report right now that every day in the Senate I wear my boots.
On his boots, come and take it.
That have the Gonzales battle flag on the back.
You think he's wearing those right now?
Oh, he could be.
Director Ray, what are y'all doing? This makes no sense. Do you agree with this FBI guidance?
And the heck are you guys doing? It makes no sense. And no, it doesn't make any sense to have training material
and the
to make that
flag and the Gonzales battle flag
a militia,
of violent extremism.
Do you know where the FBI is going with this, right?
Oh, yeah. If you espouse any of those symbols or ideas, then boom, you're on a list. Joke's on them. I've been on that list for a few years now.
I think it's more than a list. This is the way that the Joe Biden administration and all his administrators are heading. And this is all on Joe Biden, all of it.
Well, this has whether people realize it or not, this has a direct chilling effect on the First Amendment. And this is exactly why they do it, and they keep doing it, and the courts keep telling them to stop doing it, but this they keep doing it. So, it's whoever's, it's the bad guy of the day, the bad guy of the week, the bad guy of the month for this political regime.
And you have all these damn bureaucrats in D.C., and they're probably no more than 20 years old, and they're putting these memos out and these things out for the FBI. They're going to the whole DOJ and everything. So you have this kind of stuff happening in our government, and it goes all the way up to the top. Here you have Director Ray being questioned on this oversight committee. And why does it even get to this point? It should never get to this point.
Well, it gets to this point because they never have to pay a price, either real or political, whenever they're bad boys like this. I mean, under Obama, the last time, this isn't new. The last time I remember it happening was under Obama. The Missouri Fusion Center, I believe, put out some memo basically calling anybody, to the right of Barack Obama a possible domestic terrorist. And they got embarrassed by it and they had to walk it back. And I imagine this is probably the same thing. They're embarrassed by it. Hopefully they'll walk it back. But at the end of the day, the reality is this is what the bureaucrats in D.C. believe of anybody on the right. And when I say right, I mean anybody that would have been considered a moderate 15, 20 years ago.
See, here you have training material. So you're using this as training material for agents or future agents, where they're going to use this for a reasonable suspicion or probable cause to say, hey, look for that Betsy Ross flag on that house. Look for the Gadsden flag. Look for the Gonzales battle flag. If you see that, then you can watch that house.
And this right here is another testament to how far gone our government is and how entrenched the communist enemy is in our system. And, to me, the root of this issue is that we lost all of our institutions to communists. And, why do they go after the Gadsden flag? Because people that like the Gadsden flag are typically anti-communist. Why do they go after Betsy Ross flag? Same thing. I kind of wish we'd get back to the days of McCarthy and start seeing some anti-communist hearings up in the Senate.
Well, inch by inch, it's now not politically popular in the D.C. Beltway to be a proud American. And so, to me, I've been in law enforcement my adult life, Mike, and you have too. And, I remember in trainings from 15 years ago, slowly them slipping in symbols that I grew up thinking was, part and parcel with being a proud American, seeing these symbols crop up occasionally in some of these trainings talking about domestic terrorism. And so to me, now seeing the Betsy Ross added to this list, it reeks of incrementalism to me, of being a proud American against the law. And it's really kind of it's a scary thing to be looking at.
And being patriotic. So if it starts here at the DOJ, FBI, you think it's going to go into the Department of Education?
Oh, it's already there.
No, it bleeds down to
everything.
All these things bleed down out of the federal government down to your state and local and county level.
And that's why you have to have local officials that can stand up to this and say, yes, this is in our schools, in our police departments, in our county sheriff's office, wherever it may be. But a lot of times you don't have those, elected officials with a backbone. If you like the show, you like what we're doing, please go to thebluesharkshow.com and sign up for our member-only access at $4 a month. So a Russian court just sentenced Brittany Griner to 9.5 years in their prison system in Russia for the dope charge that she had. And man, I tell you what, 9.5 years.
9.5 years. And you said, was that a criminal court or a basketball court?
Well, it wasn't a basketball court because she got sentenced. If it was over here because you could dribble a basketball, she would have never got sentenced with anything, right? And we got thousands of people here, thousands literally, in jail for marijuana charge or drug charges. And we're going to go across the seas over to Russia to get her out, right?
That's what Joe wants.
And that's what Joe's going to get. But,
is this going to be another situation where we're going to trade a really, really bad person for somebody we really don't want back that badly? Is that because didn't we do that before and under Obama?
Yeah, I think that was where Joe learned this actually, is you just, give up the absolute worst for people that, your country would maybe be better off without.
Well, we talked about this on a previous show, and it's Victor Bout, and he's that gun runner from Russia, right? Mr. Death or something like that, they called him. And so we're trading a dope-smoking basketball player for somebody we have here held in the United States that's a gun runner and called, I don't know, Dr. Death or something like that.
Now, before we go any further, I do want to say the idea that 9 years in prison for what she was claimed to have done is an extremely, extremely stiff sentence, of course. So we don't want to lose sight of the fact that it is an egregious amount of time in jail for something that I don't believe anybody should necessarily be in jail for.
No, in the United States, maybe Russia too, but that's their penal code in that system.
And that's part of going to another country. They have different rules over there. And
absolutely, but I still believe you say, you know what? Man, that's
you got to feel for her, but she messed up, right?
I don't believe you lock her away and throw away the key in this situation. You definitely don't say we're going to trade a murderous, arms dealing terrorist for this person so she gets out. It's just a real shame that they have such what I consider a barbarous system over there, and it should be really a cautionary tale to all the people out there, be you a basketball star or not. Don't take drugs across borders, okay?
They talked about throwing in Paul Whelan, who's in prison. He's a U.S. Marine and been in prison, I guess, for a few years over there. And I say send him home.
Yeah.
Bring him back. But if they're going to make the trade for the both, it would have never happened if she didn't get arrested, right?
That's right.
Well,
we all make decisions, and we got to live with them.
to me, the way to handle this is to look at it like, what can we really take away from this in a positive thing? And to me, it's positive, the fact that, there's still a country out there that doesn't bow to the idea of someone being famous being above the law. It's nice to see someone is actually being held responsible, whenever there was an infraction, and just because they're a famous basketball star, they're not treated differently.
That brings us back to the Biden administration. So does that mean that if he's going to release her in exchange a prisoner, what are you going to do with the thousands here in jail for marijuana? What are you doing in the United States? You're going over there to release that person to do a prisoner swap. What does that say to all the non-dribbling people here that are in jail?
Didn't she get caught with it was like a hash pipe or something?
I thought it was like a cannabis vape cartridge or something.
Yeah,
like that.
so something like that. You got to figure that there's probably people in the U.S. that have a larger than 9-year prison sentence, or at least state jail, for that same offense. And like you said, what kind of message is this sending?
Yeah, I mean, I think they tacked on like a smuggling charge or something. I don't know what else they did in Russia for their system, but
yeah,
it was just not, hey, here you have this little dope with you and, go away. But it was enough in their system that's 9.5. And of course they did it on purpose too. They found her guilty, gave her 9.5 because they want collateral to trade for their person.
Yeah.
They're going against the Biden administration, so they don't have to be rocket scientists for this.
Yeah. Well, we shouldn't be providing collateral for terrorists. I mean, what happened to, it wasn't, I don't know, earlier in my lifetime, that was like, we don't trade or negotiate with terrorists. I mean, that was kind of the mantra that came out of every Western government for 50 years. And then all of a sudden now we do. We trade with terrorists.
I was thinking about that Iran and the pallets of cash. This was the last time Biden was in D.C., when he was vice president. And, I guess we do. I don't remember Trump doing that, though.
No, they would have never done that under Trump, right?
No, he'd have probably sent a Moab over there.
Well, he'd have sent something over there, but I tell you what, that's just, part of the ongoing saga with Brittany Griner. We don't want anything bad to happen to her or anything like that. She's going to have to do her time or whatever, but if the Biden administration gets involved, you just got to say, why are you doing this for somebody in Russia and you're not doing it for the thousands and thousands of people here?
That's a good question.
So, on goes the saga, right?
Yeah, and, Russia and a lot of their former Soviet satellites there in Eastern Europe, they have very strict policies against drugs. And I've heard tales, actually, of the gangsters in Eastern Europe and some areas of Russia will actually go after drug dealers themselves. Like, there will be a small community, and let's say there's a gang there. If you start running drugs, that gang will be the ones to come and kill you. Those people over there, they took just say no to heart.
I would say that's a indicator of not a very well-functioning government.
No, but that's, then you go back into how Brittany Griner really looked at the United States, and now she's in, Russia with, I guess, the kind of government she wants, and she doesn't like it.
Yeah.
No freedoms there, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, all right. Let's get into your buddy Klaus Schwab, all right? This goes back to the World Economic Forum, and found this interesting that they published a paper, and they're calling it the end of wasteful private car ownership. The World Economic Forum argued that communal sharing of cars would lessen global demands for precious metals and fossil fuels. So you have Klaus Schwab up there at the Economic Forum, World Economic Forum, and said the future is built by us, by our powerful community, as you here in this room. Now that's part of that 2030, right?
Okay, Klaus Schwab, who I think is like the classic Bond villain, is for the World Economic Forum. I thought it wasn't even more than 5 or 10 years ago. You know, you were crazy. You were a crazy conspiracy theorist if you talked about the evil groups like the World Economic Forum. And so now that they've admitted that they exist, it's not even like it happens once a year. It's like, do we have a constant World Economic Forum going on?
Well, there's always something different. It's kind of like award shows. You know, every few months there's a different one. Well, there's a different global elite meeting every few months. You know, there's the World Economic Forum, Council of Foreign Relations. You just go up.
Oh, I know there's the multiple, but I'm talking just World Economic Forum. It seems like every time it turns around, they're having some new World Economic Forum meeting in this city and then in that city. And so it's almost like, I don't know, global government or something.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they want. And a World Economic Forum. I mean, that's what it is. World, right? The whole world.
And
order.
Pay attention to the words being used here. Wasteful private car ownership. What's one of the first things you have to do in a communist state?
Get rid of it.
Abolish private property.
Yep. Get rid of it.
And just a few years ago, or just a few months ago here in the U.S., they were saying, oh, we're not going to get rid of cars. We're going to give everyone a Tesla. Everyone's going to have an electric vehicle. The future is electric, you know. And then now we've already moved over to, well, y'all are going to share electric vehicles. We're not going to give them to you.
According to this paper in this article they wrote, it says the average car or van in England is driven just 4% of the time. So here they're talking about England, and they have nothing, they have no idea what's going on in the U.S. But you said private property. That's also later in the article. They talk about vehicles. And then they talk about houses. You don't need a house. You don't need a private house. We'll take care of you.
When are they going to talk about giving up private jets? And, you know, if they can go to a communal private jet system and a communal chalet in Switzerland system where they get to share that.
They couldn't go to their forum then.
Well, they could share time there too. See, that it's for ye, not for me, right? So they want to bring everyone else down to subsistence poverty level while they, you know, sit around with their tea and crumpets and talk about how stupid we all are.
So the WEF promotes the Great Reset, of course, and they don't want to.
I thought that was a conspiracy theory.
No, they promote.
That was so last week.
Oh, okay.
Last week. You know.
So it's verified then that the Great Reset's a thing
Today.
For them, they promote it.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Okay, thanks.
Read 1984, people.
Well,
okay.
Is it a theory? Because they call it a theory. Because they're talking about applying this to cars and homes, and you know they encourage people. They're not forcing them yet, I guess, but they're encouraging people to go from owning to using. So that's going to be the own to use. Like you would drive your car over to the studio here, and then somebody else would get into it and drive it somewhere else because they'd be using it with you.
Well, they actually already are forcing. You know, the farmer protests that have been going on worldwide are a direct result of the kind of things that the WF has been pushing governments to do as far as reducing the ability of their farmers to use fertilizer to grow crops. So, and this is part of the crap the WEF pushes. So while we in the suburbs of a major city may not see on a day-to-day basis where the WEF actually does cause major problems, it's already happening, and the farmers over in Europe are already telling everybody there's a major problem coming if you're going to follow this globalist junk.
The farmers, that was the protesters where everyone's driving tractors and stuff, right?
Correct.
Yeah, through small European areas.
Dumping manure on politicians' office doors.
Rock on, guys.
You know, I'm actually a proponent.
And that could spread over here.
Yeah.
Ooh, they're afraid of that.
That manure could spread.
Yep.
Well,
sure could.
I'm actually a proponent of, I saw online of something called the Good Reset. So instead of the Great Reset, where we end up being miserable at the end of the day as regular people, someone has a concept of the Good Reset. And under the Good Reset, you have things like, you know, a man and a woman and children enjoying a nice, beautiful day in a park with a child swinging from a tree because they're not afraid of a little bit of risk. You know, lots of children, functioning immune systems. You know, I'm a big proponent of the Good Reset. I'm not so much on board for the Great Reset.
No, not at all. But that's kind of a funny picture.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.